All right. We are 11 a.m. in Hong Kong and we are 10 p.m. in Eastern Standard Time. Utterly and totally psyched to have Justin Blau as well as Slime Sunday on the live stream today. This is a really special one. Been waiting for this one for quite a while. For those of you who are not familiar with Justin Blau or 3LAU as well as Slime Sunday, Justin is actually a Las Vegas-based DJ and electronic dance music producer who's created a lot of worldwide house music hits such as Is It Love, Better With You, Touch in Tokyo, as well as creating a number of remixes for artists like Rihanna, Katy Perry, Shawn Mendes, and Ariana Grande, all of which have racked up millions of streams. For those of you, again, who haven't been watching the art space, both Blau and Slime Sunday have been breaking records across multiple platforms. Slime Sunday is a Boston-based digital artist who's known across the world and the web for his provocative college artworks, which unapologetically push the barriers of mainstream media and censorship. He has amassed over 522,000 followers on his Instagram, and his art can be found in Playboy, Penthouse, Hunger, Plastic, and Glamour magazine. Guys, welcome to the Whale Committee, and that is quite a resume.
Thanks for having us, man.
It's my pleasure. I know that we've been waiting to do this for a while, right?
Yeah.
Dude.
It's been a minute.
So today, once again, the format of this interview today is we're going to have some questions from myself. I'll be co-hosting with Anissa. And Anissa has interviewed some of the major artists, up and coming, as well as major artists in the NFT art space today. Welcome, Anissa. And after that, at the same time, what I would encourage the community to do is to post any questions that you might have, and Anissa will be picking those up and feeding them across to me as we go through. So if you guys have questions for Slime Sunday as well as Blau on their artistic process, on their professional life, on their thoughts on NFTs, please drop those in the stream text channel. And after that, we'll make sure that your questions get across to our two VIPs today. So before we begin, why don't I ask both of you to give a brief introduction to yourselves so that everybody can get to know you better?
Sounds good. Mike, you want to start?
Yeah, for sure. So, I've been releasing art individually under the name Slime Sunday for about 8 or 9 years now, and just been kind of messing around on the internet and releasing my content through Instagram and various social media platforms, and kind of got recognized early on when Instagram was kind of just starting out. And I linked up with Justin probably 5 years ago now, and I've kind of just been doing all of his artwork and some of his tour visuals and stuff. And it was and art, like creatively we get along so well that this was just kind of inevitable that we came together to start creating these awesome audio visuals. It's been an awesome experience.
Yeah, the backstory from my end was that, like Mike said, he and I have been working on my art direction since my for 5 years since my last album. He helped organize all the tour visuals and album artwork, and we just have that creative chemistry when it comes to audio visual work. And I noticed in the NFT space that there were some amazing visuals, but there was not enough audio happening with all those visuals. There are some really great ones now, but at the time that I was exploring the space, I reached out to Mike and I said, hey, how cool would it be if we made audio visual art that had, songs that were exclusive to that art, and, basically taking my productions and turning them into more visual art pieces. And Mike, we kind of had this idea in maybe,
August, probably, maybe a little bit before August.
Maybe around early August. Yeah, I think early August is when we really started to take it seriously. And we really wanted to push the boundaries of what was already happening. So, we kind of started, Mike is primarily a, still image artist and just started messing in the animation world. I guess, Mike, how long have you been doing animation stuff now?
I started out with 3D software when I was first getting into all of this, but then I kind of switched up my style to kind of cater to Instagram. But the visual animation stuff I don't do that frequently. So this is like a really awesome art direction for me to explore, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of a new direction for both of us where, you know, Mike is going down the rabbit hole of crazy animation software, and I'm, you know, finding the right beats to kind of match with the visual representations that he's excited about. And it's been just an amazing team effort, and you know, we're just really excited by how awesome everyone has been in receiving us to the community. And we're both really big fans of all the other artists in the community, Trevor Jones and Fuocious and all the other great artists. It was really awesome to kind of enter the space with welcoming arms from everyone, including you guys here in the WhaleShark community. It's really great to be here.
That's an amazing story. And Mike, just a question, because once again, I know everyone starts somewhere. And just getting to know you better, I know that everyone starts somewhere, and then you mentioned that you started on Instagram during the early days and finally and racked up that following. What type of artistic process were you going through to go from one follower on Instagram all the way to the over 500,000 followers and recognition that you have today? What was that process like?
Can you guys hear me okay?
I can hear you, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it looks like his mic might be muted or something.
Oh.
Yeah, maybe that
Oh,
was
sorry about
Shark's
that.
mic.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I muted off to make sure that there wasn't any feedback from my side. Sorry about that. Oh, Mike,
yeah, no
I wanted
worries,
to ask. It sounds like an amazing journey that you had. You know, once again, you mentioned that you started off when Instagram was just starting. And I just was really curious, what does that artistic process look like? You know, racking up that amount of followers from one follower all the way to over 500,000 followers. How did you do that? And what do you think attracted that audience to start following you?
And man, it's kind of a game, honestly. Like I was telling Justin about this kind of when we first started entering the NFT space, about my art direction and how much it's kind of changed over the years. But I mean, once they like initiated that algorithm, kind of everything changed. And I found early on that like the more provocative and outlandish the images were, like the more engagement and the more activity I was getting from people on the platform. So I kind of just went crazy and played this game with like the Instagram algorithm, like see how far I could push it without getting my stuff deleted. And recently, like I had like over 30 images deleted by Instagram. I can barely post on there anymore because my stuff has gotten kind of out of hand. But this is why it's been such a good break for me to kind of move away from Instagram and start doing more stuff that I truly am passionate about, you know?
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's been really cool for both of us, because I've always been a huge fan of Mike's, and that's kind of why I brought him on to help us with art direction for the WhaleShark stuff. And when COVID hit, oh, sorry, what were you gonna say?
Sorry, go ahead. No, sorry, Justin, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, when COVID hit, I had a lot more time on my hands to, pursue this side project, the SSX3LAU project. And, Mike and I think we talk at least for maybe an hour a day, and then we kind of go off in our own ways, and I work on the music and he works on the visuals. But I would say Mike probably spends, Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but easily over 100 hours on every piece.
Oh yeah, dude,
maybe more in many cases.
Yeah, but I love it. I love spending this amount of time on creating artwork. It's what I'd be doing every single day. So it's what I have been doing every single day. So I mean, just to do it in this new environment is so refreshing.
I think that's been recognized by the entire NFT community. I mean, seeing how fast you guys sell out, not only on Nifty Gateway, but also Super Rare. And, once again, we'll talk about what's coming in the future as well as your artistic process in a lot more detail throughout the stream. But dude, I mean, it's amazing what you guys have brought to the space. Before we move on to some questions for Justin, because I'm sure that the community wants to learn more about him as well. You have a very interesting story, Justin. Dropping out of finance, going into music. We definitely want to hear more about that. But before we move on to Justin, question for Mike again. Mike, how does one get one's artwork showcased on Playboy and Penthouse? That is quite the resume, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they actually reached out to me. I've been doing this thing with Penthouse for the last I'd say 5 or 6 months or so, where they release magazines 4 times a year now, and every time they come out with a new edition, they just hit me up to do a cover, and it's been awesome. Like, that's super fun to do. And then yeah, Playboy was another one where they just kind of hit me up and said, hey, can you do this article for us, do some images for it? And I was like, yeah, for sure, it's Playboy, might as well, you know.
It's Playboy, gotta do it, right? That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think what you guys will find today in terms of Easy in Crypto says bragging rights forever. What you'll find in this community is basically what we have about 50% collectors and 50% creators, which is an interesting dynamic. So I think what we'll find as we move through this interview is that you're going to be finding questions coming from both the collector side as well as the, you know, how do I get some semblance, or how do I start to get successful within the industry from both sides of the collector and the creator base. But Mike, dude, I know that this is the first time that you and I get to talk. And again, when I saw that introduction from Maker's Place, just questions I had to ask.
Yeah, for sure, dude. I appreciate it.
No, it's Justin. Now, all right. So Justin, you know, once again, you have an equally interesting story, right? I know that you and I spent some time together before this stream. You know, once again, one of the things that struck me the most is that when I spoke with you, I not only felt like I was speaking to someone who is passionate about creating, passionate about sharing his creations, but at the same time, a very level-headed, analytical, insightful approach towards the blockchain as well as finance or business in general. Would love for you to tell your story to the community about how you shifted from a finance track to a music track.
Yeah, absolutely, and I appreciate all the compliments. They're very very much appreciated over here. But the kind of the quickest version I can tell, and you know, when we spoke previously, I think we ended up talking for over an hour. So I'm not going to go too far into the details of the story. But the simple version is I was in college at WashU in St. Louis studying business, and I had a really awesome job lined up at BlackRock Asset Management to work in their derivatives division. And this was when I was a junior in college. But my DJ career was kind of taking off on the internet just from releasing mashups on YouTube and on Facebook. At the time, there was no algorithmic throttle back. It was all distribution for anyone who liked your page. And that really helped magnify my profile. And I started playing a lot of shows at other college campuses. And it got to a point where I was making enough money to say, hey, I should maybe go for this and see how far I could push it. And I was lucky to have a professor, my economics professor, helped convince my parents to let me take a leave of absence, really drop out my junior year. And that's when I decided to pursue music full time instead of going to work for BlackRock. And that was a pretty crazy decision. But having that financial background definitely has assisted my career in a lot of ways, and also turned me to the distributed ledger tech space just out of pure fascination and kind of frustration with the traditional banking system, which hadn't been really updated by technology in a major way outside of PayPal, of course. And, you know, in 2014, 2015, I started really diving in thanks to a friendship with the Winklevoss twins. I kind of was around when they were building Gemini in the beginning, and so that got me really excited about BTC and ETH. And just, you know, started my journey in crypto about 5-6 years ago. But what's really interesting, and, you know, when WhaleShark and I were talking, prior to this, I kind of told him this story, but I've really been fascinated by the idea of disintermediating creativity. And in music, there are so many artists that give up so much equity in their works to middlemen, and, you know, whether it be a record label or a distribution platform. And there's very little, there are little means for an artist to connect directly with their fan base. And that's kind of what's been so exciting about the NFT space, is it gives fans an opportunity to kind of directly engage and hold a piece of creative work and own a piece of creative work by an artist that they love, not just listen to it on Spotify. And that's been what's so exciting for me. But along my crypto journey, I actually worked on my own crypto project with the Stellar Lumens team. It was called OMF. It was a festival that we held in San Francisco. And part of our test case, we developed a mobile wallet with Stellar. And in 2018, we threw this festival with Zed, myself, and Big Sean, a bunch of other really cool artists. And what was really fun about this experience in testing out this project was basically just, we wanted to create mobile wallet rewards at the festival that, you didn't necessarily need to have crypto native knowledge to access these rewards. We just wanted to kind of give everybody a chance to participate in a crypto-esque community at a music festival. And one of the products that we created in this mobile wallet was it was actually a fungible token, but it was a limited fungible token, and we called it the BLAU badge. And the way that a fan would get the BLAU badge is if they scanned the QR code on my phone after they found me at the festival. So it basically created this giant scavenger hunt to find me in the festival. And if they scanned my phone, they'd receive this limited edition BLAU badge. And this was in 2018. So of course, like, people were mobbing me, and I had a security guard with me, but like basically the 50 BLAU badges were gone in a matter of minutes. And that's kind of when I realized how amazing the potential was for NFTs and limited digital assets in general, not just NFTs. And so we did that in 2018, and that was when I just kind of had this realization that there was a real future in scarce digital assets for fans. Fast forward to this year, I had seen Trevor Jones's bull sell on Nifty Gateway for a record at the time, which was the $55,000 mark, and I was like, wow, there's actually a lot of people in the space that have this new appreciation for digital art. And that's kind of what stirred Mike and I to start in this journey. And one of the things that I've always said is that a painter spends equally as much time on a painting as a digital artist spends on their digital artwork. The difference is just that only one painting is ever sold, and there's a real physical item associated with it, but the actual time and creative effort that goes into the art is really no different with digital art and physical art. And so it's just really exciting to see a community like yourself, like everyone here, appreciate this new movement that I think we all agree will grow so substantially in the next 10 years. And it's really exciting to see people like Beeple and like Mike and other musicians that I don't want to name any names, but some really, really big DJs are about to enter the space. And I think it's going to add a lot of credibility, legitimacy, and excitement to what this community has believed in for so long. And we're just really excited to be a part of the journey.
That's an amazing story of how you moved from a traditional finance track all the way not only into music but also into crypto land as well as NFT land. Anissa saying we love people over here. I think you will find the biggest fans on the intersection between NFT music as well as NFT art. You will find the most passionate community down here. I do know that we have some of the major collectors and I guess some of the largest innovators within the space, within the audience here today. Justin, just bringing it back to Justin as a person. I mean, Justin as a person, again, grounded in the economics and the know-how of finance, moving into the artistic space. Question before we move on onto your artistic process as well as your pieces. One of the things that we've seen, and once again, I understand that it is a little bit of a stereotype, right? But we have seen it played out so many times, where because artists lack the financial know-how, or because they've lacked the financial or the legal know-how to enter into the business, very often they're not only taking advantage because of their lack of knowledge, but they're also taking advantage of people who do have that financial know-how. My question to you is, how did that grounding in finance help you grow to be a successful artist? Just a financially responsible as well as insightful creator versus someone who did not have that finance backing at all.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think the main advantage of having financial literacy at a young age was maybe my decision to not give up equity or control in my creative process. And unfortunately, a lot of artists early on will sign predatory record deals that take 80% of all the royalties and in exchange provide a small advance. And the problem with that is those artists, they get some money up front so that they can pursue their dream of creating music. But the downside is they give up so much creative control and of course future cash flows from that music. And so I would say having that business lens has helped me structure my career and my team in a way that enables me to keep the most equity possible, and that also enables me to create, to venture into this NFT space without having any limitation. I don't have a record deal that prevents me from releasing unreleased exclusive content, musical content, right? So all the music in our pieces is not out in the world at all. And if I had a record deal, I wouldn't even be able to release a lot of this stuff as NFTs. So it's been really beneficial, and I encourage any artist, both in music and out of music, to know your worth early on, and to not be so quick to give up a piece, because ultimately the longer you control that equity in your creative process, the higher the payout later on as you begin to succeed and as you begin to amass a large following. So that's kind of, I would say, my biggest advice to everyone.
So with the I'm going to take that one more step further. So, with the advent of NFT art, right? NFT art, NFT music, NFT everything really, that's growing. You see some astounding success stories, right? If I look back to the crypto art space, even 2 years ago, right? 2 years ago, basically you see artists, and once again, I do know, for example, Hackathon personally, and I know that they're extremely financially responsible and they're able to do this. But you see many artists who started off and they were selling their pieces for $50, $100 equivalent in fiat. And then after that, when you look at the market today, many of those who were selling for $50 or $100 in fiat, now you're looking at average prices of $6,000 to $10,000 per piece, which is an exponential rise in the amount of wealth that's happening down here. So Justin, as a creator or as an artist, do you have maybe some tangible advice in terms of what people should learn in order to protect their rights, in order to not conform to that starving artist stereotype? What would you advise that people go out and learn how to do?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a tough question to answer. I think in my case, having trusted friends who can advise on every legal agreement that comes your way, and having people that you surround yourself by that want to help you because they believe in your creativity and not necessarily because they want to profit. And I think it's really hard to find those people, but I have a really nice network of friends who I've known for a really long time, who I reach out to with questions on any deal that I sign, on any, anything creative related. And, even with Mike, Mike and I have been, Mike is relatively new to the crypto space, and it's been really fun to help him explore that from the ground up and watch the same kind of fascination that I had when I got involved in his eyes now. I mean, he finally got some hardware wallets in the other day, and it's we still have to do the little a little coaching through it, but to answer the question in terms of advice, I would say, having a great network is such a big part of the process, and having unbiased opinions help you make decisions is really important. And also finding mentors that you can learn from, who will run by, who will review your ideas and make sure no one is taking advantage. It's really difficult to kind of monitor that on your own, and so having that network is super important.
Thank you. That's amazing advice for everyone out there. Again, I think I think from both the crypto side as well as an NFT side, I think lately what we've been seeing is we've been seeing a huge bull run. One of the things, no matter whether you're a creator or whether you're a collector, financial discipline, financial knowledge empowers both sides of the coin to ensure that what they do generate during the bull run or many years later remains sustainable, right? So Justin, that's amazing advice for the community. I know that we have a bunch of creators within the community who are starting to fledge out and starting to actually accrue a significant amount of wealth as NFTs become more popular. So guys, once again, listen to what Justin had to say. Once again, a very successful creator who's managed his creative process as well as his financial process extremely well to be able to do that. So now that we've gotten to know both of you a little bit better, and Justin did touch on it a tiny bit, But what we have playing out here, I believe, Mike and Justin, this was one of the first pieces that you guys dropped in the NFT space, right? Could you take me through, and I know that you guys talked a tiny bit about it, but can you take me through what was that process that kind of set off the light bulb and said, we need to enter the NFT space, but at the same time, we need to join music with NFTs to create something different?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll start by just saying, like, I actually reached out to Justin and I was like, dude, I mean, I'm getting hit right now so hard with COVID. Like, do you think I could, you could like throw me around some ideas, like make some extra income or something? And then Justin, as smart as he is, just came up with this whole NFT thing. And like, since then we've just been crushing it, I guess. Right, Justin?
Yeah.
I mean, you'll be able to explain it better than me.
one step back from that. So yeah, Mike had reached out and he wanted to kind of establish this artist collective, which I still think, we're looking to explore an NFT artist collective in some way, shape, or form. But Mike was looking at, ways to compensate for the terrible disaster that hit with COVID. I mean, COVID really impacted the music industry, and a lot of Mike's income came from the music industry. And so things just changed. And Mike reached out asking if I had any ideas, given my business background. But prior to that conversation, I had actually been advising a company called Block Party that was primarily in the ticketing business in 2018 and 2019. And I advised them in the capacity of kind of helping them penetrate mainstream music culture with their crypto ticketing business. And they had recently pivoted to building an NFT marketplace. And for those of you who don't know Block Party, I would highly encourage you to check it out. Lots of really cool stuff coming with them. And so I'd advised them for a couple of years, and they turned me on to what was happening in the NFT art specific world and sent me a bunch of links. They showed me OpenSea, they showed me what was happening with Nifty. And I was just so stunned by the fact that people were really willing to pay up for someone else's digital creative work. Something that doesn't even really happen in music, right? Like, people will pay Spotify $10 a month to stream. The actual like payment per stream, the payment that people make to consume music is pretty low, relatively speaking. And for the amount of time that we put into every song, it's a lot of time. Some songs will take me years, and so seeing a community properly compensate artists for their work for the amount of time that they put in was just fascinating. So it was really the journey started with Block Party, and Block Party kind of turned me onto the space. And that's when Mike had reached out a little bit after they started to pivot into their new product. And that's when I had this epiphany, and I was like, well, I'm not a visual artist, but Mike is. Why don't we team up and do something in this collaborative capacity? And that's when we came up with the alias SSX3LAU, Slime Sunday times Blau. Very straightforward alias. And we wanted to create a unique brand around this collaborative effort. And we did our first drop with Block Party in September of this past year. It's been just over 60 days since we started doing drops, though. Before September, we spent a lot of time, just going through ideas and figuring out what the vision was. And our first drop with Block Party sold out extremely quickly. One of the collectors who bought that one of one piece, our first one of one sold for $12,000, which is like crazy. That was our first drop ever. And that was a pretty high watermark to start. And that collector also, not to disclose his identity, but he's a pretty big art collector and has a bunch of like original Basquiat and original Cause pieces. And so being collected by someone who had such a great reputation was such a great motivator for us to continue down the path and the journey. And that's kind of when Mike and I saw this amazing success on our first drop, we decided to like put an incredible amount of effort into the future releases that we've been working on. And it's all kind of coming together with this Makers drop, which will be our last of the year, which we can talk about in a little bit. And we also hope next year to push the boundaries even further and tokenize a complete unreleased music video. That's kind of our big vision that we haven't really spoken about yet, so you guys are the first to hear it. But we're really excited about tokenizing a complete art piece with a unique song and a unique video. So that's kind of what Mike and I are working on into next year. But but yeah, this year's been amazing. We've done a couple drops with Nifty, we've worked with Block Party and Super Rare, and this will be our first time on Makers, and it's thanks to you, WhaleShark. We've prior to us connecting, so many people told me about how epic this community was and how supportive it was and how amazing the Makers Place team was, and so it's just really exciting to be working with Danny and with all of you guys on getting the word out on our new pieces.
Thank you for those kind compliments. But guys, again, like Justin, like when you and I spoke, I do think that that there was a certain point in time where all of a sudden SSX3LAU as well as Artifact entered the space, and then all of a sudden this huge rush of energy came into the NFT art space. I wasn't prepared for it. I don't think anybody was prepared for it. But it really, for me, if I was to look back on the couple of months, there was always some very stable and stable growth within the NFT space. And then after that, seeing yourselves as well as Artifact enter the space, that was really an inflection point where all of a sudden, you didn't have traditional artists doing digital art. For a new generation, what you had was a new generation of artists using new generation technology for a new generation of audience, right? So for me, I do believe that the community and the NFT space in whole is forever in your debt for actually making something that is not only relevant to NFTs, but also relevant to a collector base that is so much younger than and sorry, I'm close to being a boomer, but it's so much more relevant to a newer generation, right? Which is why I'm excited to talk about, again, what you guys have coming up next. I do know as we've been speaking, Anissa has been feeding me some of these questions, and again, Anissa is much younger than the leadership team here at Whale. I do believe Anissa might be the youngest member of the Whale leadership team, and again, creating art pieces that speak to that generation is going to be amazing, right? What I'd like to do now is, once again, I do want to make sure that we reserve some time for questions because everyone is extremely curious and they want advice. But before we do that, there are two things I want to touch on a little bit. Let's talk about your creative process. So what I have here, and we can go through some of the artworks in terms of what you've dropped on Super Rare as well as what you've dropped on Nifty Gateway. What we have here is reflections, right? Mike and Justin, can you take me roughly through what was the creative process behind, how does the music come first? Does the art come first? How do you guys go about creating these masterpieces that you guys release?
So I think Justin might have dropped off, but I'll try to speak as eloquently.
I'm still here.
Oh, you're still here, dude?
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, because your mic thing came off. Oh, all right. Yeah, I was going to say, I'll try to speak as eloquently as Justin, but we'll see. So, I mean, I think for me personally, it's obviously like always trying to find something that fits the music. So, I mean, with this one where it's a loop, this was more of like, we have this created and then we just had to find the right track for it. And Justin kind of was able to edit the audio afterwards. But for something like that we had released on Nifty, where it's more audio reactive, like for Can't Copy Me, something like that, that was like a lot of time just listening to the track and trying to make the visual as audio reactive as possible. So doing like a lot of manual cutting on the visuals to accent different portions of the song. So like the hi-hats, the drums, the bass line. So in Can't Copy Me, that was like very much focused on the track itself and trying to make a visual that complemented it the best. So I mean, for me, it's definitely more about the music comes first and trying to fit a visual to that track.
Yeah, and what we've done actually is like I'll produce a bunch of different beats all across the spectrum, and I have them in a folder that Mike and I share a Dropbox folder with all of our ideas. And so I'll produce the beats, and then Mike will get inspiration for one of the from one of the beats and then create the visual from that piece. But the opposite is also true, where sometimes Mike will just have a crazy idea, he'll send it to me and I'll be like, oh, I have a song for that, or I have a music idea for that.
True.
It goes both ways, and that's kind of what's so fun. is, Can't Copy Me was definitely the first like most crazy audio reactive piece that we did, where the visual was specifically built around the song. But then, with the Maker's Drop that's coming up, Mike actually had this vision for the visuals, and then we had to kind of build the music around the visual concept. And one of our pieces in this Maker's Drop, we're so excited about it because we actually ended up using a beat a long time ago for it, and I had never used it for anything before. But Mike built this, he hand built this forest setting with this neon cube at the center, and we wanted a song to sound like you were kind of journeying through forest. And I happened to put one in the folder, and Mike actually found it. He was like, dude, can I use this one? I was like, whoa. This fits. And so it goes both ways. I think that, on occasion we fit the music to the visual, and then on occasion Mike designs the visual specifically to the music. I think we found that collectors like it both ways. Sometimes the audio visual stuff is a lot of energy in a piece, and it might not be something that keeps on their wall, playing at all times. Whereas, these makers pieces are more, the music is an integral part of it, but if the music was muted, people could kind of live on their own without the audio in case someone wanted it. So we've kind of explored both, and it's been a really fun process experimenting. But for any type of piece that we've done, Mike spends so much time, too much time, to the point where it'll be like 8 a.m. my time and 11 his time in Boston, and I'll call him and he'll be like, dude, I didn't sleep last night. I'm like, man. He just keeps right. So yeah, I think you'll see with this next drop on Makers, the 2 animated pieces that I think, Mike, you might have spent more time on these than anything ever before.
Yeah, I actually did. I mean, I spent a lot of time on Can't Copy Me, but I definitely think I spent more time on these for sure. Just the process of because my computer crashed a while ago and we just got this new one in, setting that up and getting all the render engine set up and everything, and kind of going back in time to when I used to do all this 3D work. It's definitely still a learning process for me in some aspects, but I mean, we came up with some really sick results, and I think you guys are going to be stoked when you see them.
Guys, we already have people in the chat saying they're actually predicting your sellout times. Some people are calling 10 seconds, some people are calling 2 seconds, some people are calling half a second.
We love it. I mean, I'm watching the stream text, and Anissa, thank you for posting the Maker's Place preview. And I don't know if you guys can see the actual image of the cube in the street, but Mike, I'm just gonna build you up for a sec, Mike. He hand built that entire atmosphere, up to the puddles on the street that actually reflect from the light. That's how detail oriented we went on this one. And yeah, it's definitely going to be really, we're really excited for you guys to see it. These are definitely some of our favorite pieces thus far.
Mike, that is absolutely insane. And dude, you're doing perfectly. You're extremely eloquent, extremely to the point. We love that over here. So dude,
I appreciate it, man. I'm not much of a talker. I'm super introverted, so.
Dude, I think again, I know that I talking with Justin, I know that Justin mentioned similarities, and myself when I take the Myers-Briggs test, I'm on the extreme introverted end as well. But just coming in with those questions, you're killing it, dude. So don't worry. What I'd like to do is I'd like to play some of the audio from Reflections, just so that people can get a small taste of what they're going to be seeing when Slime Sunday and WhaleShark join forces together to create not only art, but art with music. So I'm just going to play this, and I believe it should be on loop. Let me see here, just so that people can hear it. That's amazing, guys. So just a question before we, and it sounds dope. Easy saying in stream text. So as a collector, right? As a collector, I display my artwork on my monitor screens and on my murals or everything else that I have inside the house. How do you guys envision collectors maximizing maximizing the experience when you have an art piece with music? How do you envision that collector experience?
Yeah, I think that's something that we've been exploring in the physical world a little bit, and thinking about building some actual physical devices. More particularly, I've been playing with this 2-watt laser that can actually potentially project our pieces on a wall, where someone could literally turn it on from their phone, and it starts the song, and it goes through this whole show, and that's the piece itself. It's like it has a physical component. It's something that we've been exploring. It's going to take a while for us to get there, but we envision a lot of our pieces kind of serving both purposes, where if you want to keep the song on, great, but you don't have to. The one challenge that we've run into is the actual loopability of media players. So the second a media player can do a perfect loop, it'll be a lot easier for someone like yourself to just turn on the audio when you have a friend visiting your place and you want to show off the work. You click a button and now the audio's on, and it kind of adds this dimension to the experience. But we do like the fact that the visuals can stand alone without the audio, right? And this is something that, with the more audio reactive pieces, they don't necessarily stand alone as well as two of these pieces that we're doing in this Maker's Drop. These are definitely meant to both exist as standalone visual pieces, but the audio just kind of adds that extra layer of dimension when you want it to be there. And so, we're definitely, exploring how that will manifest in the future. And we definitely are excited about physical space installations and stuff like that. But we also want to be, aware of collectors like yourself and like all of yourselves who may just want to keep this on their wall without the music. So it's important to balance both. And it's been, we've only been doing this for a couple months at a, very intense capacity. So I imagine Mike and I will continue to explore ways to kind of bridge that gap for people that don't necessarily always want to have the audio on at certain moments in time.
That's wonderful, and I can totally see myself, just as a collector, being able to use audio only, being able to use video only, being able to do it as a whole for a totally immersive experience. With the click of a button, my office can become a dance party, right? Dude,
Yeah,
that sounds amazing, and I think that really brings me a new appreciation to how you guys are, and I don't think the word is how you guys are selecting the audio, because at the same time, if I have right now, if I have like a 10 or 20 second clip that is playing over and over again, and just listening to Reflections right just now, I could have it constantly playing in the background, and I'd feel like it's not repetitive, right? I would feel like that it's immersive, and I would feel that there's a continuity to that piece of music that would allow me to play it for hours on end, and feel like it's not a song. So basically, what it is, it's like the sound of rain falling outside, right? I don't get bored of it. I think that's an amazing vision, and a totally amazing vision. Mm-hmm.
We appreciate.
Yeah, it would really be awesome if they could figure out the whole looping thing, because that would just make it so much more dynamic if we could have these looping infinitely with no start or stop. Same thing with the audio. I think that would just make things so much more immersive, in my opinion.
Yeah, when we started, we started with this vision of making loops so that people could display their art and listen to the music with continuity without having like the start stop at the beginning of the song. And we noticed that it's just like there aren't that many media players that enable that perfect loop. And it's easy to do with just visuals, because you can kind of glitch it out and make it go back to the beginning, or there's this brief pause that might not be too jarring with just a visual, but the second you add audio, it's very audible when it drops out at the end of a clip. So we've been really kind of our first pieces we did were intended as loops, and then we kind of decided, musically, I started to create intros and outros, just very brief start sweeps and explosions to our pieces. Actually, in Reflections, that kind of like glitter explosion at the end, I added, and Mike started to do these, blur fades and different techniques to kind of make it so that the visual could still loop, but it wasn't necessarily a perfect loop that had this weird stop out issue. So yeah, like there was a lot of thought that's gone into this stuff, and I do think as the looping, as these media players start to accommodate perfect loops, it gives us even more flexible creativity to create perfectly looping pieces.
Guys,
yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. There's a lot there.
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think the community will tell you that one of my pet peeves is the infinite loop or the perfect loop. Very seldom will you find me collect a GIF file, or a piece of NFT art that is not infinitely looped, because it's kind of jarring when you see an art piece run into perfection and then all of a sudden everything stops and then there's no rewind, there's no nothing, and immediately it starts from the start again. So yeah, dude, I mean, one of my pet peeves as well. It's the pursuit of perfection, right? It's a pursuit of perfection that I can see both from a visual as well as the audio creative process that both of you are looking for. Before we move on to some of the community questions, and I know that we have quite a few, how are you guys for time, by the way? Do you guys have another half an hour?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Great. Let's talk about your Maker's Place drop. So let's talk about your Maker's Place drop, and this is something I've been very excited about ever since I heard that you guys were going to drop on Maker's Place. Wonderful platform, wonderful team, wonderful artists as well as wonderful creators. And I know that we did talk a little bit about it. They are teasing us, so that I don't think that they're showing us the actual art drop. But what we can see is basically what you have is the rendered environment with the cube. Can you talk to me a little bit about the creative process and how this upcoming drop is going to work?
Yeah, Mike, do you want to talk about? So I'll kind of start, and then Mike can kind of pick up. But the vision behind this is there's multiple pieces that kind of explore a more technological or futuristic environment, and then a more natural environment. And the piece that's in the teaser that's in the chat right now is actually an animation. It's a full-length animation, but Danny over at Makers was like, we don't want to post any full video clips yet. We want to tease everyone. Starting with
I made a mistake earlier today. I put if anyone here follows me on Twitter, they probably already saw the animation.
Yeah, but
I should have caught that because it looks amazing. I would have loved to see this in animated.
Yeah, and we're excited for you all to see it on the 3rd. But this particular piece with the street is called Traffic, and when it drops, you'll understand why. The song is very. Mike, how would you describe the song? Busy.
It's busy, yeah, for sure, and it fits the visual perfectly. Yeah, it's perfect. It's literally traffic. And
the piece was kind of inspired by high gas fees, actually. No, but it was kind of inspired by ETH traffic, and we wanted to kind of manifest that in our own way. And so that's kind of where the inspiration behind this particular piece. And then the other piece is called Greenwood, and it's more of a natural setting, and we wanted to kind of create this warped fantasy with that piece, and the audio definitely follows that concept. And if you guys want to check out a still from the other animation called Greenwood, like I said, we posted it to Twitter today. So if you go to the SSX3LAU Twitter or the Blau Twitter, you'll find a still screenshot of the other animation, and then we have a still image that kind of follows a similar theme to both animations. That's going to be listed at a lower price point, because one of the things that we understand that some of our pieces are really expensive, but we still want to give everyone the opportunity to collect. So Mike and I started kind of lower priced editions in our latest Nifty drop, and it was enormously successful, and a lot of people were really excited because they couldn't necessarily afford to pay for a one of one. So we like giving people the opportunity to own some of our pieces without spending a crazy amount of money. Of course, the ones that do cost a lot of money are the ones that take Mike and I, 200, 300 hours. But we put the same, creative effort and the same kind of inspiration into the stills as well.
That's awesome. And Anissa has dropped a link to both Mike as well as Justin's Twitter, and she has also dropped the previews of both of the pieces that are going to be launched on Maker's Place. Again, before we move on to community questions, highlighting to everyone who's here today, as well as people who are going to be listening to this on YouTube, guys, once again, Maker's Drop from Slime Sunday BLAU on the 3rd of December, and you can be guaranteed I'll definitely be there. So Mike and Justin, we're basically looking at one of one drop and one edition drop, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
One lower edition and then one kind of higher edition still image. So the two animations are more limited, and then the still image will have a higher quantity.
Fantastic. I will definitely be there, and hopefully I'll be able to turn my hotel room into a dance party with traffic. That sounds amazing.
Oh yeah.
And
you'll love it. I hope you'll love it. And one of the things that we also do is we send like super high quality files out to anyone who buys pieces, just to make sure that they have like Mike is a quality guru. You could speak to that, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the issues, a lot of the platforms can only take up to like 100 megs. I mean, Makers is different, which I just found about recently. I guess they could take up to a gigabyte, but once you start compressing things, like especially with images or videos that have a lot of light in them, you start to see like banding. So you see these bands, or you can kind of count the number of bands around the light. It just doesn't compress right. Mm-hmm. So I mean, we try to send out like super high res video files that don't have that banding in it. So if you wanted to play that instead, like you'd have the higher resolution. But yeah, it just drives me nuts to see the lines in the light.
Perfectionism. I love it.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do something, you got to do it right.
Oh yeah. One other thing before we move on to the community questions. Anyone who in this drop will also get access to an exclusive listening party on Decentraland, where I'll be playing a bunch of my unreleased music, and the only people that will get to hear that unreleased music are those who collect this drop. And the way that Decentraland will allow users to enter that space is just with proof of the NFT in your MetaMask. So if you own any of the pieces on this drop, you'll get to kind of go to that exclusive listening party in Decentraland, and we're definitely really excited about that, because it's all music that no one's heard before, that I'm not even finished with yet. And so that's kind of a new experiment that we're doing with this drop, is trying to add features to ownership. Instead of just owning the piece, it also kind of entitles you to special experiences, and we hope to continue to do that in the future.
That is an amazing idea, Justin. I'm definitely gonna try snag one. Definitely gonna try get into Decentraland and listen to some of that amazing music that you create. But that is really an amazing idea.
That was Danny's idea. I got to give Danny the credit. He like, yes.
It's you not only get an art piece, you also get a ticket to a show. That's amazing. And it might be it's probably one of the first times that I've heard of someone doing this with the scale that you guys have. So I can definitely say that this is going to be insane. Definitely.
Thanks. We love it.
So I want to make sure that, and sorry, I could have you guys to myself for 2 or 3 hours, but I just want to make sure that the community does have a chance to get their questions in. So I'm going to start with a question for Mike. This is from Dab Dragon. So he has a one real question and a cheeky question. The real question is the artwork for shock value or is it an art passion, right? I guess he's talking about you pushing the boundaries. And then after that, his cheeky question is, can he read Playboy and Penthouse and tell his wife that he's reading it for research?
Yeah, I mean, I am really passionate about the work that I release. For the Slime Sunday stuff, the stuff on my Instagram, I assume that's what he's talking about. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of fun, like, with these specifically. They're collage based, so I search for the magazines. They're usually from the 70s, 60s, and 70s, and I go to stores and I search through the magazines, similar to like when musicians are sampling music. They dig through all the old vinyl records and pull them out and find something they want to sample later on. So yeah, I find all these old magazines, I scan them on my scanner, and then I bring them into Photoshop and completely change them. So there is more of a connection to making these collage pieces than simply, finding something on the internet and editing it. So that aspect of it I absolutely love. But then there's also like Instagram and the way that the platform is created. The only stuff that gets viewed is the stuff with the most engagement. So yeah, you definitely have to play the game if you want to get the views and the likes. And yeah, my girlfriend knows that I look at a lot of vintage porn, and she's completely fine with it.
That's awesome. And a question from Dior, so DYOR, for both of you. And this is, I always enjoy, while I enjoy talking about the NFTs, I also enjoy, learning about the people. Dior asks for both of you, which is your favorite moment in your respective careers? So both for Mike and Justin.
Wow.
Simple but difficult question, isn't it?
For me, it was probably EDC Las Vegas 2017. I got to play my favorite stage at the festival. I was, I guess, 26 years old, and kind of that was my goal in life, to play one of the biggest stages at EDC at prime time, and that was probably my favorite career moment for sure.
Mm-hmm. I guess for me, it was just like receiving a magazine with my image on the cover. Like, that was pretty epic. And yeah, honestly, this whole NFT space journey has been absolutely amazing. And I'm gonna have to say that this is definitely top on my list for sure.
There you go. You guys heard it here first. Slime Sunday saying that entry into NFTs is an epic moment in his career. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
And we're so happy to have both of you in the NFT space. Again, I think you guys created a fresh breath of air into the space. And as I said before, I think it really is an inflection point whereby now we actually have relevant or extremely relevant. Everyone is relevant, but extremely relevant art for a new generation. So that's fantastic. But talking about the NFT space, Achatanga asks, what advice, and this is for Justin, what advice would you give to those who want to start the artistic or NFT journey?
Yeah, I think my best advice, and Mike and I talk about this a lot, is being super conscious of quality, because I do find that a lot of NFT art sometimes lacks detail, is purposefully made for profit, and I think it's a little bit disadvantageous to the art form. I think that there are amazing artists like Mike who, no matter what price the art sells for, he puts the same amount of time into the visuals, whether it sells for a crazy high auction price or whether it's a multi-edition piece. We put equal amount of effort into everything. So I think my best advice to a new artist is spend the time to make your art the best it can possibly be, instead of necessarily looking to sell as much of it as possible. And I think that shows. I think that collectors notice. I think that communities notice when the time is really spent on making something perfect. And Mike and I both, I mean, if even the littlest thing is wrong, we're both crazy. For me in the audio, and for Mike in the visual, like I won't notice all the detail that Mike does in the visual, and Mike won't always notice all the detail in the audio. And we actually sometimes have to be there for each other to say, yo, dude, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
I was doing it earlier today. I was like, dude, do we need to add more text to this or something? And Justin's like, dude, it's fine. It's good.
I'll be like, hey, should I add something to this part of the song? And Mike's like, nah, dude, it sounds fine.
That is amazing advice. And Justin, yes, I can tell you that collectors can tell the difference, particularly those that really care about the art that they collect, which is all of the major collectors. When we do look at a piece, it doesn't matter whether it's minimalism, whether it's music integrated art pieces, whether it's vaporwave, or whether it's collage-based style. Collectors with a keen eye, what we're able to do is, we just by looking at a piece, we're able to tell whether or not the artists or the creators really spent a lot of time looking at every single detail. I mean, the infinite loop is one of those indications, right? Did the artist spend enough time making the infinite loop so that there's that continuity for the piece, given the way that someone is going to display it? When you talk about vaporwave, what you're looking at is, did the artist really spend an insane amount of time ensuring that different elements of the design are placed in different pieces so that the entire piece looks cohesive, right? So I can tell you, Justin, that's amazing. That's amazing advice. I'm so glad that both of you are perfectionists, because as large collectors, what we're looking for when we do acquire a piece is a creator's or creator group's best piece, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we constantly try, with every new drop, we really try to change it up and not stick to the same theme. And, the last drop we did was heavily audio visual and very particle audio reactive based stuff. That was with Nifty. And then this drop is a little bit more ambient and atmospheric.
Mm-hmm.
And we love that we can explore multiple genres without, and hopefully have continuity in what we create and for collectors to perceive that. So yeah, I totally agree. I think the most important part of being an artist is that perfectionism and pride in the work.
So we have another question for you, Justin. And once again, we do have creators from all walks of life here. We have digital art creators, we have music creators. Fox Yoga asks, at what age did you start to make music? What was your first equipment? And do you acetate like in the old school?
Wow, that's a good question. So I started playing piano when I was maybe 5 years old. And piano is my primary instrument, and also happens to be the best instrument that translates to electronic music, because all of the instruments that you edit in electronic music are edited on something called a piano roll editor. It's how you kind of program notes in a digital way with something called MIDI. And the piano is kind of the main input to being able to write electronically. So having that background in piano definitely helped me enter the electronic music world. And I was just always fascinated by technology and the ways that it could create kind of unique sounds. And, WhaleShark, you and I were talking about this, that in many ways, digital art goes places that physical art can't, because you can kind of bend reality in a unique way that physical art cannot do. And I felt the same way about electronic music versus more traditional music. That's not to say classic rock isn't great. I'm a huge fan of Pink Floyd, and a huge fan of a lot of 80s, 90s, 70s, 60s artists. But one of the coolest things about electronic music is that it helps you push boundaries. And so I was always kind of an instrumentalist when I was young, and then I went to Sweden with one of my best friends in college, and that kind of turned me on to electronic music, and I just fell into it and fell in love with it. But yeah, definitely all started with the piano for me, and just took, I think Mike will tell you this as well, like for any art form, if it just takes a lot of time to become as good as you want to be. And even for me, like every day that I make music, I still think I can get better. I still think there's more that I can learn. And Mike, I'm sure you feel the same way with animation. The journey kind of never ends.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like we've been doing this for years, to get to the point that we can create these things and have them, I guess, say they look good. But I mean, Yeah, like personally, I spend at least 11 to 12 hours a day creating artwork. I've been doing that for the past 10, 15 years. So, I mean, yeah, you got to spend a lot of time and you have to absolutely love what you're doing to want to spend that much time doing it. You're not going to get good at something overnight. You need to put in the work. And I think Justin said it perfectly.
Absolutely. Fantastic answers. And Mike, a question from Flowers' Powers for you. What excites you most artistically about NFT tech?
Well, I mean, I hate having my stuff just like spread across the internet. And there's really no way to verify where it came from. So I think the fact that my art can now be verified when I release it is just a huge step forward. This really hasn't been done before for digital creators. So that for me is the most exciting aspect of all of this. It's having a way to verify artists effectively.
Extremely wise words. And again, I think even when I was talking one-on-one with Justin a few weeks back, I think one of the most important things about NFT tech is NFT tech doesn't stand alone. NFT tech is really an extension of digital art, right? It's what it should be. And like what Mike said, I mean, the ability to use NFT tech to not only ascertain both the origin of where the piece came from, but as well as the scarcity. You know, is it a 1 of 1? Is it a 1 of 10? Is it a 1 of 20? That really ushers in a whole new dynamic for the commercialization of not only digital art but digital creative in general. So again, it's an exciting time for all creators and collectors, right? We'll hit off with 2 more questions here. I have one more technical question about minting. Zanibar asks, are there any alternatives to IPFS that provide the best hosting experiences for MP4 files? I think that would probably be a question for Justin, right?
Yeah, no, we've oh man, it's the same dilemma with the perfect loops. The IPFS as a means of hosting MP4 files is really just the beginning of what we hope people will develop tools that are maybe more friendly to bigger file sizes, looping. But right now, the minting process is kind of focused in that regard, and I think. But listen, it's as we all know here, it's still so new. The technology is so new, and I'm certainly not complaining about it. I mean, this is the best that we've got, and we're very excited about it. But I do think there's a lot of room for development in the future, especially like non-crypto native collectors to get involved with just a username and a password without necessarily having to worry about an ETH wallet. Like there's a lot of mainstream onboarding that needs to happen in the next couple of years. But I think we're all pretty positive that it will happen and it will scale. And this technology is so powerful for creators. I think ultimately what's so exciting about NFT technology is that creators are incentivized to participate because we've always been ripped off before. This is like the first time we get to really control our output and our, provenance in a unique way. And so the more people I've told about the technology, the more excited, my fellow artists have become. And Mike's excitement that he expressed previously is echoed by so many other artists that I've spoken to who want to be able to control their art in a way that the digital world has never allowed them to. So, I do think that we'll see a lot of development in the space. I know there are so many platforms and engineers that are building on top of this infrastructure that exists, and I think the next 3 to 5 years will be extremely exciting, and the tech will get better.
It's going to change the dynamic, my friend. The entire dynamic will change.
Oh yeah.
And talking about the dynamic, so this is a question for both of you, and we'll end off, being conscious of time, we'll end off on this last question from Easy in Crypto, and I'm going to paraphrase it a tiny bit. This is really the first time and a huge honor to have both a musician as well as a visual artist with as much mainstream clout as both of you have. And this question coming in from Easy in Crypto to both of you, do you see more musician and artist collabs? For example, like what you guys are doing with NFTs with the track and audio with special art editions moving forward in the future? And adding to that, how do you think that that's going to evolve?
Man, I hope so. I hope we see more of this. I think it's really cool. Like this has been an awesome experience for me just to like, release these NFTs, spend as much time as I do on them, and have like Justin, creating this awesome audio. It's just, I mean, I think more people are going to get involved in this, and I don't see why they wouldn't. It's just an amazing opportunity to be able to come together and put two different art forms to create this one unique piece. It's pretty powerful, I would say.
Yeah, and I can piggyback off that to say there are a lot of other electronic artists that I know of that are even bigger than us that are starting to look at this really seriously. I think that as those individuals come on board and start collaborating with their visual artists, like every electronic musician has art direction of some kind for their music, and so for Mike and I, it was kind of a natural partnership. But a lot of other artists have similar partnerships with art directors, and I think we'll see a lot of that in the next 6 months. We'll see a lot of, musicians start entering the space, and particularly electronic musicians, because all of us in the electronic music world, we all love technology. It's part of the music that we make. So I think that we'll see a lot of DJs and producers enter maybe before other types of artists, just because it's kind of a part of our blood and what we do. But I do think that RAC has done this as well. Very prominent Grammy award-winning producer who's teamed up with multiple visual artists for his drops that he's done on Super Rare and Nifty, and he's seen wild success on that. And I think it's only a matter of time before we see other really cool artists partnering with other great visual artists and adding this extra dimension to the NFT world.
That is amazing, guys. And with that, again, I do want to remind everybody that Slime Sunday times BLAU will be releasing on Maker's Place on December the 3rd. They will have a couple of pieces down there, and when you purchase one of those pieces, you not only get an amazing piece of artwork, you not only get for those who purchase the right NFT, not the right one, but the rare NFT, you not only get the visuals, you also get the audios, and on top of that, you also get access to a listening stream from BLAU, the party experience in DCL. So make sure you book your art, book your audio, book your tickets. Justin, Mike, it's been a real pleasure having you guys on Whale FM today. This has been one of the first times that I've seen the Whale community, just pump in those questions and be so excited about everything that you guys are doing or everything that you guys are heralding in for a new generation of art, for a new generation of collectors. So from the bottom of our hearts, as well as the bottom of the NFT community's hearts, just want to say we're so thankful that you're with us, and we really can't wait to see what you guys do next.
Thanks so much, man. Really appreciate being here. This has been awesome.
It's been our total pleasure. So guys, thank you very much. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say thank you all for tuning in. It means a lot to us that you came to hear us and hear about our inspiration.
Everyone is still excited, and I think the hype train is going to continue, my friends. So with that, we're going to close out the Whale FM stream. Thank you again, Mike. Thank you again, Justin, for coming on. And guys, make sure you stay tuned to Maker's Place, December the 3rd, and swoop up those NFTs. You guys have a wonderful night.
You as well, man.
Thank you.
Thanks.